Minister of Finance, I believe, yeah, at one point. So he served Jawara's regime for over 10 years. He's a well-seasoned politician. He also been in the diaspora. He had also acquired, I believe, a degree in law and so forth. So Mr. Dabo will be able to tell us his bio, and we will go ahead with him with some questions, sophisticated questions today. Thank you, Mr. Dabo, and your team. We have a team also here. They will also introduce themselves as they speak. Thank you, Mr. Dabo. Welcome.
He is on mute.
Are you on mute, Mr. Dabo? Can you unmute yourself? Let me see if I can mute him.
Click on the
mic. Is it better now?
Yep.
No,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah, we're good now.
Everything is okay.
Well, I'm saying thank you very much for welcoming me on board your very prestigious platform. It's a delight for me. And as you suggested, I have the support of a number of colleagues from our party who are with us. Maybe I should introduce them to save time and before coming to say a word or two about my background, we call it my CV. Now, I understand we have with us Malang Sao, who's a senior member of Gambia for All. He's a member of the Central Committee of Gambia for All. And when I say Central Committee in the context of Gambia for All, this is the principal directorate for leading the party in between party congresses. So it's the most senior organ of the party responsible for the direction of affairs. Mr. Saho is a member of that committee, and Dr. Bakari Sonko, who also I heard is also a member. So we're delighted. I'm delighted that both of them are joining us. Third member I had is Malamin Barrow. He is also a member of that central committee, but in addition, he heads the communication structure. We call it communication cell of our party, with a team of other colleagues, members of the cell. They are responsible for the communication work within the party. I believe these are the ones I'm told are with us. I myself, I think you have said the essence of what I have by way of background. I'm Gambian, all right. I'm now resident in the Gambia, but at one point I was living abroad, mainly in the UK. Prior to that, I had some years of public service in the service of our country, both as a civil servant and later on in a political leadership role. I think you refer to some of the positions I held. I think that should be enough to give an idea of my background.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So without further ado, Mr. Honorable Dabo, we just wanna first know the manifestation, your manifesto, party's manifesto, because Gambia for All is a new party that just started, and then since you came to Gambia, you went back into the political arena, and then you decided to go with Gambia for All. So, but before you give your party manifestos, I think we can go chronological order by saying you were a former PPP and in Jawara's regime. And I guess when Jawara was overthrown, you had to spend few months or perhaps close to a year with Jammeh regime as a finance minister. And then from there, you fled the country. So since you came back, everybody is hoping that perhaps PPP would give you the opportunity, or you will lead the party since you are the number 2 guy when Jawara was there. But all of a sudden, we had some, we had rumors of some, infighting or whatever that had occurred, and that led you to create a GFA, Gambia for All. So if you want to start with that, just to highlight to our audience what had transpired to make you, form this other party. And then if you can tell us your party's your new party manifesto. So those two things is the first thing we're gonna go with.
Yes, I will talk to you a little bit about the points you just referred to, but in simple terms, letting off a lot of what I consider paddings or dramatization of really what wasn't a dramatic affair. As a Gambian, my personal passion from the time I was at school is to offer myself and whatever I have by way of experience or abilities for public service. I emphasize that because at the time I had the option of going to private business or private sector, but it was a conviction on my part that I felt committed and to show to my country, and I thought the best way I can show that commitment is to offer myself for public service. And that's what led me into taking up appointment in the civil service initially. Worked for a number of years in the civil service, basically in the regional administration, but also in the ministries in Banjul and in the foreign service. I rose through, held a number of positions of responsibility. At a particular point in time, a certain situation was created in the country and certain circumstances were thrown up, and that saw me cast in the role of political leadership, which I accepted because I thought it lay in direct line of my commitment to public service. I saw politics as just another form of public service, another platform for public service. So when the circumstances changed and that was the domain in which I was called, I accepted it because I thought that was quite consistent with my passion and my conviction. That's what led me into political career, as it were, in which I held again a certain number of responsibilities. I'm thankful to my fellow citizens who it was my privilege to be called upon to serve. Now, what happened in 1994, we knew. That's exactly what you said, except that when you said you thought I served for Jame for a year, or well, that the record has to be set straight. No, actually worked at the insistence of the junta, the military junta, which took control over the country. I worked for them for 70 days, not 1 year, 70 days I did. And that was based 70 days, that work was based on what I believed then was an understanding between them and me when they asked me to join them as to what direction things should take. And when I was convinced within 70 days that things were not taking that direction, that's when I dissociated myself and left. Having set that record straight, I found myself living abroad in exile. I had to do a number of other things because I wanted to keep myself busy, and I also had skills which other people other than the Gambia also needed. So I did a variety of work, including academic studies. But at the same time, I found time to engage in the struggle for the restoring democracy, because by then it has become quite clear what within 70 days I saw most other Gambians over a matter of a year or so also got to see that the government, the country had fallen into a very difficult predicament because the wrong people were in charge. So a movement sprang up, many foreign countries, but UK in one of them. So I joined a movement for struggling for restoring democracy by means that were at our disposal, mainly agitation, petitioning, and other political action that kept me busy. So when in 2017, what had then been confirmed as a dictatorship was changed and a new order appeared on the horizon, I consider it is natural that I should resume my passion for public service through politics. And that was what led me to come down. It coincided with efforts to revive the People's Progressive Party, the party I belonged to from childhood, from a long, long time. A party also with whose principles I had no quarrel. I still believed very firmly in them. Now, what happened was that, when shortly after that, my return, there was a Congress to really get the party operating on proper footing, because since 1992, the party had no Congress. It was being run in the most chaotic manner on the basis of no popular mandate. The party states that it should be run by people duly elected by party Congress. So the party was banned when the military took over, but when the bans were lifted around 1997, the party never managed to do the right thing. That is to put the organization on a proper footing, at least for legitimacy's sake. Well, it was continued on some kind of informal arrangement. So in 2016, 17, some of us thought it was an opportunity to have the party go through a proper regular Congress, to have leadership emerge, which will be legitimate because it would have had the support of the party in consonance with the Constitution. Now, that was the intention when we went into the Congress. But unfortunately, for reasons I don't want to bother you, I think the organization of the party fell into the hands of people who were not able to ensure that you had a party, a Congress run along the prescribed rules and procedures. And that's really what led to some of us to take our distance from the party. And that was a different thing. Then we moved on, because my commitment is not to the PPP. My commitment is to serve the Gambia. The PPP was just one of the platforms available to me. So that the fact that the party found itself in a situation where some of us were not able, didn't feel able to continue, it didn't mean we should necessarily forego our commitment to our party, our country. And that's why we some of us grouped together with others who weren't part of PPP to found the new party we call Gambia for All. So that is the long story of it. I'm not quite sure they talk about camps or power struggle. I don't think there was anything like that.
Okay.
There was a Congress that was meant to be an opportunity for the party to come out with a legitimate leadership, properly elected. The process of that Congress was vitiated, in the opinion of some of us, by the organizers, that it was not done according to prescribed rules, a situation which is now recently been confirmed by the ruling of the High Court, which says that the Congress should be redone. But anyway, at the time, we are the ones who felt about it, and we decided that it's not worth fighting over. We left the party. And as I said, the fundamental thing is not which party necessarily you are in, but your commitment to your country and the ideas you and the ideals that you subscribe to. So, our continued membership of PPP became difficult for us to continue, but our commitment to serve the Gambia through public service, through politics, and on the basis of principles and policies that we hold there, those things stayed with us. And it is with those convictions and principles that we moved and founded a new party called Gambia for All. And that's how I've come to head it. Now, you talk about me running you through a manifesto of the party. Well, this is again a terminology which is sometimes a bit used in a bit confusing manner in Gambian political analysis. No. We will be issuing an election manifesto nearer the time of elections. If we are going to contest elections, we'll come out with an election manifesto, which will tell the electorate what are the issues and in what priority order we will be doing if elected to office. With that stage, we haven't got to. What we feel we need to do is to elaborate our vision about our vision for the Gambia's future based on our reading of the situation in the country and the problems and challenges facing it. This we have been doing in many different ways. One of them being this kind of interviews. We addressed a number of press encounters, sometimes in the form of a press conference, sometimes in the form of panel discussions like this. But more formally, we are working on a document which will roll out our vision. That document should have actually by now be ready for publication. It's been held back because of a number of difficulties, but we're working hard on it, and we hope within a fairly short time it will be published. That will give the Gambians how we see the Gambia, its problems and its challenges, and what are our ideas for dealing with those challenges in their different facets. That is a completely different document from a manifesto. Now, having said that, at the time we launched the party back in February last year, we saw the need in a simple flyer to summarize what we call then a launch manifesto. And this basically said gave a synopsis of what we believe in, what are our fundamental beliefs, and what we hope to do if we come to power. This is a very simple publication, and I would have been, if I had known you would need it, I can get that and summarize it for you. But that's just a flyer. So in terms of these basic documents, that's how we approach it. So if you ask me to run through a party manifesto, we don't have a manifesto yet. We had a particular flyer, which maybe for lack of better title, we call it a launch manifesto at the time. That one has been published and is very much in the public domain. Now we are, apart from using the platforms like this and newspapers to elaborate on our ideas, we are coming out with a formal publication which will outline our vision for the country. And as I said, we hope that will be published very soon. Now, if nearer coming or any other election, the party decides to go into that election, we will come out with another document to be called Election Manifesto, but that one will only arise nearer the time. I don't know whether I've made myself clear to you.
Yeah, that is clear. The only thing is like maybe you can just give us a brief idea or vision of your party's leadership or something. Like I know you haven't have anything on, but you guys have, as a party leader and secretary general, you probably have an idea what this party, what are the things that it has to cover, and then what are the things that voters would actually be looking for. Do you have something like a brief?
Yeah, well, what the party stands for is informed by our reading of the situation in the country. Is how we read the situation, how we understand the situation that has forming a number of ideas in different domains. For instance, in the political governance domain, we feel the fundamental doctrine of separation of powers, whereby the present situation where the executive is overbearing and powerful. We saw that in its worst form at the time that Ajaga was in the dictator was going into too much detail. You listen perhaps daily to some of the revelations at the TRRC that gives you glimpses into the kind of political governance we had. One in which both the judiciary and the legislature were under the thumb kind of democratic practice. So we are in for a democratic practice where the powers will be better separated, not only separated, but also used to be given the capacity to serve as checks and balances on each other. Checks and balances, the parliament having the power to confirm, to consider and confirm certain decisions by the executive, and so on and so forth. So we are in for a deeper democracy in which than is the present position. We are in for a political governance where the freedoms of the citizens are, expanded and reinforced compared to what they have now. And we are also for a governance is returned to professional status, is made non-political, and is run along professional lines, strict professional lines for its competence. Now, these are all ideas, as I said, that are informed. We believe that the civil service, starting under the dictatorship, but continuing until now, has been terribly polluted with political interference. We have seen it also bloated. Discipline has completely broken down. Corruption is rooted in the country. So we want to change all that. These are all some of our ideas in the area of political governance. In the area of economic governance, we deplore what we see, that the economy has gone into terrible past 27 years. This was a country which, through prudent management and the hard work of Gambians, managed from a very, very modest basis at the time the Gambia became independent. We built a fairly solid economy, which was commented on by international community. We had very successful economic reform programs, even when we had difficulties, and the economy was growing steadily. This is a country which, at independence, some observers thought we couldn't stand on our own, discontinue the budgetary support that was coming from Great Britain through granting aid to people. But we even continue to finance development and growth. A lot of growth has taken place, and particularly in the social services sector. That obtained by the time the military took over. Over 22 years they ruled, continuing now through the 5 years that this coalition government is in. We see that economy badly in decline. First, the productive base. But what is the production base for a Gambian economy? It's agriculture, mainly. Latterly, we have tourism coming on board. But look at agriculture. The main cash crop, there's the food crops. Cash crop, Gambian agriculture has always been groundnut production and export. Where groundnut production in the Gambia increased over the 30 years since independence from a low level as low a level as to something like 140,000 tons per annum. Now it came down to 20,000 on the Jammeh, and it's still 20,000. So that's a terrible, is a measure of the terrible decline that happened to Gambian economy. If you leave groundnut aside, domain of agriculture, at one time we were thinking of expanding into cotton production, palm produce production. All that have been scrapped. All that have now been since collapsed. Rice production was also on the increase. We even began to see vistas of the day because nature has endowed us with rich rice fields. Go to Makati Island Division, which is now called CRR. You see what we had there on both banks. The Jahali Pachar on the south bank, the Kuntao going to. Those were good. That's why the assets that we are going to put the country on a sound footing for food self-sufficiency. Now all those things have collapsed. Rice production is gone down. So this is the kind of economy is that when we have a say in the way this country is going to be run, that economic situation has to be transformed radically. Radically, we have to get our priorities right. The government's investment is spent on expensive cars for ministers, for planes for president, and useless embassies open all over. That priority will now be taken back to the farming to the farmers, to the agriculture for animal husbandry. These are the productive sectors. This is a kind of turnaround, transformation that we will use as a basis for transforming the economy. And of course, through that, on the donor community, our partners, because then they would see that we are on the right direction, and perhaps their support to us by way of loans and credit will even increase. That will give us more scope to invest even more massively into agriculture. Connection, for instance, to see seriously, for the first time, seriously go into harnessing the asset of the Gambia River for agriculture, but particularly for agriculture, whereby every year the millions of cubic meters of water, fresh water, which is wasted, we want to have as much of that as diverted, not simply by building one major dam as we have canals. We can have canals for irrigation. We want to really intensify irrigation, agriculture. We want to intensify, we want to also extend agriculture into the area of what they call value chain, where particularly in the area of, these are all ideas that we have. And as I said, some of these, when our vision document is published, they will be presented in greater detail. Now, in the area of environment, in the area of social development, we see it's terribly deplorable. I don't know when last some of you visited the Gambia, but you only need to see the big conurbation formed around Banjul and Kombo St. Mary. It's most unhealthy. This is the most unhealthy framework within which our people live. We want to work hard on that. There are critical areas like the soil erosion in the coastal areas. You hear of all the trouble. The depletion of our forest cover, which is leading to desertification. We want to address all this. So really, I can only give a very brief summary, as you perhaps can understand, but our vision document will present this in a systematic manner and a holistic manner for people to see that we are not simply talking about what. Give it serious thinking, and we've got clear ideas that we want to put in practice if we have a say in running the country.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Dabo. Was very good, Mr. Sawaneh.
Thank you, Honorable. Just before my partners come in with their questions, I just want to do one, and it's a two question, but it's gonna be in one part. I think somebody's background is making noise, please. If you can put it on mute. Yeah, you can put it on mute. Yeah. So yes, one of us is background is making noise. I don't know who it is. Please, can you put it on mute? Okay. So, Honorable, some people would say, and I know you are not the presidential candidate yet, but you are the party leader and secretary general. Most likely you will be the leader. Some people would say, Honorable Bibi has been in government 10 years plus, 2 decades ago. And I'm pretty sure you are close to 70. So why would Mr. Dabo, be looking forward to lead this country again when we have young folks like the people with you in this team not given the opportunity to lead the party? And secondly, some people would say when Mr. Dabo was in power, the Jawara's government was known to be one of the most corrupt governments. And also when it comes to nepotism, that is unquestionable because I witnessed it. what will make Mr. Dabo was in that government, second-handed, number 2 person. Why would we give Mr. Dabo opportunity to run this country when he was there when these corruptions were all going in? So this is something that our audience people will probably be thinking, and then perhaps you will see this question coming over and over. So you must have some response for that, so that your candidacy or your leadership can appeal. I hope we didn't lose him.
Sawaneh, your signal is not very good.
Hello, do I have the floor now?
Yes.
Yes, you can go.
There is something of a jumping the gun here, because you yourself say you are talking to me in my capacity as party leader, and not even presidential candidate. So why you should now be so concerned about the appropriateness of me becoming president or presidential candidate? I'll come to the point now, and of course I'm only speaking to you as party leader and our party plans. Candidate for a party speculating. But anyway, since you brought your question to the personal matters, highly personal matters, like saying, well, you might not have been president, but you have been there. Now, first, this question of 2-term, by general practice, is applicable to people, to presidents. It's not any other person. It's not that you have been minister, so therefore the 2-term thing applies to you. But anyway, even if you want to apply it to me, it of course does in the rise. Now, I believe that we have to be careful when we begin to peddle rather cheap points like, oh, give the chance to young people, as if old, not being young is necessarily equal to either incompetence or some other. I think that is in itself discriminatory. I believe that what Gambians need to be looking for are suitable people to lead. Yes. People who will provide the character and the competence to provide effective leadership. Yes. That can come from all generations, young as well as old, just as it can come from all tribes. It can come from both sexes, men or women. But once you begin to categorize and associate it to only one category, whether it's age, in generation terms, or you are going through a very slippery slope. Because what you are really going to, what you are heading for is try to institutionalize discrimination and exclusion. That is not healthy for our society. It is a very shallow way of arguing. We have talked about young people, but was Yaya Jammeh not a young man? Was he not a young man? You see, our quarrel is not with people's age, and should not be with people's age or with their tribe or where they come from or their religion. It should be with their personal qualities and competencies. Yeah. And you, as journalists or whatever opinion leaders, I think you should help in elevating the quality of debate in the Gambia and about Gambian matters to a certain level. Cheap talk like give it to the young. What does that mean? We didn't give it to Yaya Jammeh, but he took it, and he was a young man. What did he do with it? Absolutely. The issue is not age. The issue is not tribe. The issue is not where you are born. The issue is not where religion. These are dangerous parts. If we follow it, we are going to lead to excluding, and that will just polarize our society. We must not do that. So I think, Honorable, you have to understand it this way. The question is. You will not allow me to complete the question answer. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to give you a tip. The question is just that so that you can explain to the
Yeah,
people. You know,
let
that's
me,
the
no, no, no,
chance.
but
That's the chance.
no,
It's
no,
not.
no,
It's
no,
not
no, 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 no,
an
no,
idea.
precisely. Yeah, so what the answer I'm giving to you now is not just for the person who posed the question, but for Gambians. I think this is a matter of, we are talking about how to take our country forward, and debating in a sensible manner is very much part of it. See, I know that is not necessarily his own personal view, but the answer is also given in that same spirit, that he can also take it on board, and people who ask that questions can also take my reply on board. All right. Now I have to come back because if you take me
I'm
off my
sorry.
train
Yeah.
of thinking, I can lose. Now, having said that, I've been taking out of my
Yeah,
train.
no, the other one is the corruption.
One, I wasn't president, so this two-term doesn't apply to me. One, two, generation saying that because of you belong to a generation, that I don't think that holds water, because that, as I say, is a very dangerous way of approaching these public issues. Now, the third point is a generation. Yes, I was really, I wasn't amused, but I was surprised when you say it is indisputable, it is clear, you were there. Jawara government was one of the most corrupt governments. That it is not, it is indisputable. I mean, I'm really surprised. Well, if you say that, if you ask me whether I've not had that said, I will say yes, I've had it. But to say it is indisputable, I think that's taking it too far, because that gives the impression that that is the majority view, and that there is evidence. It is not the majority view. You know, the Jawara government had the misfortune of having been overthrown by a clique of people in whose interest they have to demonize the Jawara government. And they had, for that, the opportunity of having a whole government machinery. So they said a lot of lies. But that what they said, that didn't make it undisputable, and it doesn't make it the majority opinion. On the contrary, I think the Jawara government, and I'm happy and that I was privileged to be part of for some of the way, but that government had its own weaknesses, there is no doubt about it. But its record on fighting corruption, I think, is quite respectable. It is quite respectable. Corruption, of course, is a problem universally everywhere, wherever you are. In the Gambia, yes, we did have corruption. But one, the scale of it was nowhere near what some people suggested. Two, it is totally dishonest to suggest that the government did nothing about it. The government did a lot about corruption. Go in the area of legislation, from the special criminal courts to even the aborted attempt at one time to institutionalize assets evaluation. These were all concrete efforts that the Jawara government did within the context of the rule of law. Jawara was not a military dictator. We didn't have NIA, we didn't put people in prison. People who are accused of or allegations of corruption are dealt within the dictates of the rule of law. They have to go through being properly investigated, charged, and taken to court. And in the court frees them, we let them. But the government did everything it could. And even with that, the scale of it was nowhere. Sadly, the Gambia people lived to see another regime and saw corruption, the real corruption at that time. So to hear you say that, this is because you lived through it is indisputable, I will be happy to hear you elaborate what you mean by that. I cannot deny that there was hanky-panky here, but this was a responsible government, which had a good record, backed by the personal example of the senior leadership. You could, if I put you to test, you'll be hard put to point your finger from 1965. Very few minority you can perhaps point your finger at within the top leadership who have any question about them. They had impeccable record and they served their country. Great sacrifice. For people to come around and just say, no, it's the most corrupt government. That is unfair. And it's a government also which also did a lot every time allegations of corruption did arise. In fact, there's a government which on a regular basis did everything within our resources to strengthen the machinery for fighting corruption. From the audit department, which is independent, with the police, which had free hands, with the judiciary, which was free. But then we are not a military dictatorship. We're not like Gambia. We couldn't hold because you get a report, you will send you to mile 2. No, no, no. We have to go through the rule of law. That was also an essential part of governance. I think within that framework, George, within that framework, that environment, that context within which the Jawara government worked, our record on corruption military clique who had, it was in their interest, they had to paint Jawara black after all. If you overthrow a government, you have to do everything to keep on painting it black for the world to believe that you are justified. And then you have the maybe other critics who are perhaps not discerning enough, who repeat these slogans. Jawara government most corrupt without even able to elaborate.
And then they also mentioned
really
nepotism.
I believe therefore my association with that government was an honor for me, and I really, contrary to you and others who think so, do not think that office now. I'm not a handicap.
Yeah, Mr. Dabo, what would you do different like this time around before my partners come in? What would your government, if you are elected or selected as a party leader?
I'm just coming from spending 5 weeks of country. You may wish to know that the vast majority of your countrymen who are as much Gambian as you are, who I came across from Barrow all the way back to Brikama, the vast majority of them, on the contrary, were applauding me for having been associated with the Jawara government. So you
personally did a wonderful job as a vice president. I witnessed it. But what I'm saying is, what would you do different as a head of this country?
What you are saying is that there is a certain body of opinion which says that among the many things that should discourage coming forward is that the fact that he was associated with the Jawara government. That's what you said. So I'm telling you that that opinion is very much in the minority. Going down the 2 banks of the River Gambia for 35 days, in as many as 400 Bantaba. The question I had is that having been associated with Jawara government is an asset and not a liability to me for being accepted for leadership role in the country.
Okay.
I'm just thinking for you, that your leaders don't have the impression that all Gambians feel that being associated with Jawara is a problem. No, in the contrary, they think it's a major asset. A lot of people say in their own very colorful way. They say, if you want to see Jawara, now Jawara is not here because he's dead, but you see people like this man, and you still don't believe them. So the people, I think, being associated with the Jawara government is an asset. I tell you that.
Okay. So we're gonna go to Sam. Sam has a question, and then I'll ask for comment. Thank you so much, Mr. Dabo, for answering.
Sam is most welcome.
Honorable Dabo, thank you for your time and thank you for being here. I first want to say, you are, from the time before I asked my question, I wanted to say a comment here. Knowing, even though I've never met you before, but from what I heard and what I've seen during Jawara's time, I was in Gambia during the coup, so I was there, and I remember a little bit about Jawara's time. Yeah, and if anybody asked me today, my opinion, Jawara's regime, Jammeh's regime, Barrow's regime, I will pick Jawara's regime as the best. Okay, I think you guys, like you said, there's corruption all over the world. I think Jawara's regime was the least corrupt government that we had in the Gambia. I have a lot of respect for Jawara and you and Jawara's regime. You know, back in the days, I've even heard, you know, that you, Honorable Dabo, was one person that people call no nonsense person. So I know that you guys came with, you know, had a lot of experienced people among you there. You've done quite a great job, and definitely Jawara's regime was an asset to to our country. Being part of that, you were an asset to the country as well. So moving forward, so I wanted to just acknowledge that experience really count. Experience is very, very, very important. You know, in anything that we do. So your experience, the talent that you have is great. It's going to be a great asset to the country. Definitely, no doubt about that. What I'd like to ask is, I know you've touched a little bit on that. It's about economy. Knowing what we are in now, you know, you've been through, you've seen all this. You've seen Jawara's economy, Jemme's economy, and where we are now today, Barrow's economy. If you become a president for the Gambia, what are you going to do, or where are you going to start to turn this economy around? Because right now, our economy is not very healthy at all. And we need a healthy economy. And if I look at Gambia, from independence up to now, if we had done what we needed to do in every regime, today we would have been very self-sufficient. We should have been. There is a lot we could have been doing. We could have been, today, we would be, if we take any loans, it would be very minimal if we had done all the controls and put all the control mechanisms in place. So when you become a president, my question to you is, where are you going to start to move this, to turn this economy around?
Thank you, Sam. Thank you very much. And I also note the observation you made in the.
We are not hearing very good, Mr. Dabo.
Very well. I'm not sure.
Hello.
Yep,
Now it's good.
go
Now it's better.
It's just the level of my voice, is it?
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, yes, I was saying thank you very much. To come to your point, yes, the state of the economy, you call it not very good. I think that's an understatement. I think the economy is in serious crisis. I think the economy is in a serious crisis, in the doldrums, they say. An economy, the point of an economy is through the process of production and distribution to create conditions where the well-being, the livelihoods of its citizens of the society are guaranteed. Now, the mere fact of the massive flight of Gambians by all routes, including illegal migration, is evidence that the economy is not coming anywhere near meeting what is expected of it. And this, in our own reading of the situation, is because through bad direction by the government, through chronic underinvestment in the productive sectors, you know, the economy has fallen into that major mess. I cited the example of groundnut crop, the major cash crop, the major source of foreign earnings. If the production can go down from 140,000 tons to 20,000 tons, and even 20,000 tons now, we cannot even market them because the marketing institutions were all corrupted and broken down. Now go up country. Gambian production, that minuscule 20,000 tons, is not sold in the Gambia. Senegalese vehicles to come and collect it. Now, how can you have an economy when the productive areas of production are all decimated? So the starting point for us is to address that. And we know that the factors that make for productivity in the Gambia, one, let's not forget the hard work of the Gambians themselves. If they are farmers, they are hard work. But two, it is the kind of support and investment that the state does using public resources, because they are building the economy for everybody, not just for farmers. If you invest in agriculture, you are not only giving the money to the farmers, but their production is the basis of the economy, which goes on to create employment in many, many, many fields. So, that is what makes it a critical area, and that's where the money should go. But this is precisely where money has not been going, and nowhere near the level that is required. African countries, and Gambia is not the only one guilty of it, have committed themselves way back in the early 1990s to say not a minimum 10% of your budget, every country's budget should go to agriculture every year. Gambia, if you check, I wouldn't even say to you check how much of Gambian domestic economy, domestic budget goes to agriculture. You'll be lucky if you get even 1%. And that 1%, you now have to leave out what will also be squandered by theft and corruption. And how do you sustain an economy on that basis? The same thing also went for other crops. The same thing went for livestock industry. Another promising sector of our country, given our people's long-standing culture of attending livestock, but the support that should come through them through efficient veterinary services. These have all collapsed. There is no support now. Before there were regular support from now even the former veterinary inspectors, they call them livestock inspectors, they are the ones who have set themselves all over the country as in private practice. So if you don't have money now, your cattle cannot even attend to them. How do you go on? Fisheries, the same thing. Especially through collaboration with countries like Japan, there was a lot of investment in fisheries infrastructure all along the coast, from Gunjur to Bakau and along the river. You go and look at this now. All of them have collapsed. How do you? This is the crime of these two regimes. You cannot neglect the key sectors of production and talk about economy. It's a dream. You sit down there, you are jamming, you say the sky is the limit because you think Gaddafi will give you all the money, or that Ahmadinejad in Iran will give you the money, or you go to Venezuela and shout, I'm a Marxist, you think that is foolishness, childishness. That's how you develop a country. This country will only develop by the hard work of the people, and the people have a tradition of hard work. Gambians have fighter and they like to work. All that they need is good guidance and support. And that's what they have been denied. You give them the impression that, oh, the money will keep on coming. The money will keep on coming. Where does that take us? So starting point will be to get the priorities right with the government's investment. Nowadays, if you look at the dissect, the actual, I don't mean just the provision, but the actual spending, which is calculated at the end of the financial year, you say how much has been spent on the president's office, on vehicles, on travel, useless travel, on buying either buying planes or hiring planes, and useless, excessive ministerial travels, useless embassies open all over the place, overstaffed. I have been ambassador, and I do know what kind of work devolves onto a Gambian mission. Why does an ambassador have to have a deputy ambassador? What for? A protocol officer? What for? All those nonsense. The money there should go to where it should go, to production. That's the first point I will start, Sam. I will start by really reorientating government spending in terms of the economy. That's why I'm going to spend. I will stop this terrible spate of borrowing, the government borrowing the central bank until you're up to your neck, because that crowds out private operators who want to borrow the same money to invest and produce. No, you government instead borrows it to get a huge standing army. So how many generals for a Gambia army? How many generals? What do you need that? But the economy has to start by getting your priorities right. And it's only then that your development partners will begin to take you seriously, because they know they're dealing with people who are not only honest, but they do know what they're working on. That's a starting point. Get it, your priorities right, and within those priorities, within the priorities like agriculture, you also go into bold initiatives, like as And that doesn't call for huge amount of investment. To divert that through a comprehensive scheme of irrigation canals, you can improve agriculture considerably, the productivity. That will not only earn the economy more foreign exchange, but it will create work opportunities for Gambians. It is a lie to say Gambians don't like farming. It's because farming has been made non-profitable. But if you can make it profitable, many Gambians would prefer working on Gambian agriculture rather than go and work in Italian agriculture or Spanish agriculture. So there are a whole lot of things to do, but the priority will be to get the priority will be to get the spending into the productive sectors.
Yeah, thank you for answering my question. And in fact, I was going to do a follow-up question by asking about what you're going to do about government spending, but I'm glad you already went into it. It's out of control. It is out of control. I totally agree with you 100% on that. So thank you for elaborating on all that. Thank you.
Pair of scissors is too small. I'll take an axe.
Thank you.
And really go for all these useless and cut them off.
Yeah. I mean, Bibi has demonstrated that in the past, and then we really for that. So moving forward, we can just jump to Sam. Alice or Ajaga. Who wanna come first? Thank you, Sam, for that wonderful, picture. Who has a question to go? Sam, Ajaga, or
I can ask
Okay.
Mr. Dabo, Honorable. As I also know the Jawara regime, I think I left Gambia while you were also the vice president. I was a small boy. I went out. Yeah, and I can only give my complaint today. The reason why I left was my salary was not enough.
Your salary was not enough.
Yeah, every time I get my salary, if I buy shoes, nothing was left over. That one I know it's true. No?
Yes.
I mean, okay, but it was not bad, as Sam said. Maybe in some years when somebody does something better, we can say that was bad. But still now, I think the Jawara regime is the only one we can sign with, as I am seeing going around. So my question is, because you touched here something about corruption and things like that, I'll come to that. So these are my questions. When you are a president today, and you know how the country is, we don't need to talk about it. How are you going to start and make Gambia corruption free? With your experience from the other government, Jawara's government, I would say never take an example from that. That time Gambia was maybe 500 the population. Now we're talking about 2 million. You understand? So taking the population size too, and the stage of corruption today, it's not only in Gambia, but let's say Africa. And what is disturbing us and why, and how are you going to fight these things being the head of the country?
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, well, you say if or when, but maybe more if yes, if I become president. But in fact, really, we are basing this argument on if Gambia for all comes to power, not necessarily if Bakari Dabo becomes president. I don't know whether you see the distinction.
No, for me, it's if you are, for example, now you are a party leader, maybe you will be the president. You never know, because we are all speculating. I always say it's a big surprise coming in December. So I am just taking if, because right now you are not.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, but what I'm saying, yes, okay, you can put it that way. I put it in terms of if Gambia for all were to come to office, in terms of our policy commitments. Yes, we
having problem of this signal, Mr. Dabo.
Corruption. It is very serious. Yeah, I'm saying that under Gambia for all government, the fight against corruption will proceed with greater determination. The starting point is to set a good personal example. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, we are here. We are here.
The starting point in fighting corruption will be to start with personal example of the leadership. No leader, when your hands are steeped with corruption, can really make an effective, can mount an effective front against corruption. We listened to the Jane Commission, a president who was pilfering, stealing government money in that light. How can you be credible when you say you want to combat corruption? So the starting point is for you to set a good example yourself, your personal conduct. You have to be above. That will be Gambia for All's starting point. Good leadership, not only efficient, but a leadership of character, leadership with integrity. That is the first settle. The second part is to put in place the necessary mechanisms which will ensure that corruption is detected and fought through the legal process in the country, where, as I said, we do not, and we cannot promise Gambians that we will be arresting people left, right, and center and sending them to NIA because of allegations of corruption. But we'll have a very strong audit system, whether you call it National Audit Office or you call it Audit Department. We will give them the capacity to be able to do their scrutiny work much more efficiently than we have seen. We will also increase the efficiency of the law enforcement agencies, the police and the courts, so that they also play their part. Because in combating instances of alleged corruption, these are the key actors that come in. The auditors who detect, the police who investigate, and the matter is taken to the courts who decide. Now, where those are inefficient or themselves are corrupt, you cannot get good results in combating established causes. But before we get, well, apart from that, there is also the other facet to fighting corruption, that is to reduce the cause, the attraction of it. And this comes through a whole lot of ways. The government's pay policy will try as much as possible to give people at least living wages. You said when you were living in the Gambia, you left because your salary was small. That's true. Salaries have always been very small in the Gambia, or at least until 1994. Jawara, as president, and I was well placed to know it, drew a salary of not more than $120,000 per annum. That works out about how much? Is it $12,000 or $10,000 a month? That's what Jawara lived on. That's what was his earning. Now, of course, you ask how much Yaya Jammeh drew when he became president and how much Barrow is now drawing. I wouldn't bother you go and ask. But the point I'm saying that salaries were small for everybody. What the government did as a responsible government was to do everything possible to keep the low cost of living down. Because the point about salary is not so much the volume, but how it relates to the cost of living in the market. Because the cost of living in the market was reasonably low, your small salary still managed to help most Gambians to have a decent living. The other day I had a radio presenter was saying that when he started working, his monthly salary was $170 or so a month as a teacher, unqualified teacher. But when the bag of rice was then selling for $45, now you begin to see how it was possible for him to survive. So what a responsible government does is to match the volume of pay paid to the Gambians or earnings related to the cost of living. Right. What has the disaster that has fallen the Gambia now is that there is no match between them now.
No, we are having inflation now.
Inflation, but also bad economic policy. Now, having said that, I come to the point that there is the prevention part of corruption, not the prevention, but at least reducing the temptation of corruption. One is to improve pay for civil servants, because when you talk about official corruption, it centers around ministers and civil servants. So giving them a fairly decent salary would at least reduce the temptation to go to corruption out of need. Then, of course, we will have other mechanisms in place. Gambia for All is committed to have a serious anti-corruption process, apart from the regular courts. In other countries, they call them anti-corruption commission. I think Gambia itself is working on that. But we are careful because we know that in Africa, almost every country has, but most of them can be themselves totally inefficient. So we want to go about in a very efficient way. One of the best examples we know in Africa we have taken note of, and these are the kind of models we want. So we want to combat corruption by economic policies that will reduce through the better pay, reduce the incentive for people to go into corruption. Two, to strengthen the state's means of combating it through the legal process. And these are the kind of things we'll do. But of course, we cannot promise that we'll ever be able to eradicate corruption entirely. It is a societal problem. But we have seen it work in many countries who are serious about it, that they can effectively bring down the level of the scourge when they take serious determined steps along these lines.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
My next question is, don't you think that some African president or people who are fighting to take the seat or something like that, after taking it, maybe they are afraid to start fighting corruption just to avoid that people who voted them in can be enemies of them. That's why maybe sometimes they cannot do anything. Or they themselves are already committed that they cannot take any step against it. Do we also have such problems in Africa?
Oh, yes, of course. That's possible. That's possible. I think it depends on what ideals and objectives a particular government or a particular leadership is committed to. Gambia for All is committed to a clean government. Our country is in a mess, and we have come up because we want to contribute in cleaning it up. Our commitment is to that. Looking for votes for subsequent elections may be a legitimate concern, but not one that will override our commitment to run a clean government to combat corruption.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we can come to, thank you, Alas, for those wonderful questions. We can come to Ajaga, who's going to give us some questions on you. Ajaga.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've been waiting for a long time now. Okay, Mr. Dabo, I just want to go back a little when somebody point out and then you answered about like the youths taking over. We are not saying like when we talk about that, we do not talk about age. We are talking about the people who have been there, let's say for 15, 20 years in the same administration, in the same system, and still now there are no changes. That's why we are saying that it is time for fresh ideas. You understand? Because of now the world is developing to because of how it was 10, 20 years ago and how it is now, it is different. So when we talk about the youths coming in or the young ones, we are talking about fresh ideas that can replace the ones who were there from the first regime to the second regime up till now in the third regime, and still now there are no major changes. When it comes to our social economic development, when it comes to youth employment and development, when it comes to women and their development and how to assist them, when it comes to our health system, education system, and our infrastructural system. That's what we talk about when we say that it is time for some people to take over. Because of maybe today, we have, when it comes to technology and other kind of stuff, like what happened to you a while ago, when it comes to that, because of the world has evolved, things have evolved, and still now Gambia is not evolving. So that's why we think that maybe it is the right time for fresh ideas and fresh minds to take over things. So that's why we mean about youth taking over, but not we never talk about the age or something like that. We are talking about how to change things because of it wasn't working and it's not working.
And you assume, Mr. Joof, that you assume that new ideas,
and then Mr.
that the only in young people do you have fertile ground for new ideas to grow. Is that the assumption?
Yeah, Mr. Dabo. Mr. Dabo,
Yes,
let me
yes,
just help Ajaga here. What he's trying to say, if somebody has done, if somebody has done like 10 years or 15 years in the government and a particular leadership role, or that person should give chance to others. I mean, I think the age situation there, was just thrown out there just to shake you up a little bit, and then just something that.
No, it's not easy to shake me up. You won't be able to shake me up.
But what Jaga is saying is just to bring fresh ideas. Let's give opportunity. If somebody look at in the United States, if somebody did 5 years in power, their hair grow gray as a leader. Our Africa, people would do 15 years in power, their hair become even blacker instead of being gray. So that means, we are not really, our leaders are not really taking things seriously. They're just there to enjoy. Here in the US and other places, the reason why Obama turned gray and others, they are there to work and then they deliver. So nobody would like to be in that office so long if you're really there to work. So this is the problem that I think we are facing. And not only that, but even in civil service, if you have been somewhere in a leadership role for like 15 years, you should consider moving forward to other things and let somebody with fresh idea comes and change things, reinvent things. So I think that's what Jaga is trying to say. Jaga,
Exactly.
go ahead.
And I was just clarifying that point. And the second thing is that, like, what you were saying about corruption, but I heard you at the last end of what you were explaining. I heard it because of corruption goes deeper than our administrations or our top civil servants who are there. Corruption runs deeper than that. You understand? The corruptions, it's on the streets, it's in the police, it's in the you understand that the institutions who should be there for us and in our homes and everywhere. You understand? So it runs deeper than that. So I think for me to tackle that corruption, as you mentioned, we need a very economical reform, a very strong economy to tackle that with good salaries. You understand? That's the only way that we can tackle corruption, and it can be only based on, because of right now, you talked about loans. For how are we going to live with loans? For how long are we going to have money from outside to develop our country? Whilst we ourselves, as you just mentioned, through agriculture, through irrigation, through lots of things that we can have our own resources and our own money through self-based production, food-based production that we can produce for ourselves. Because of the more we go and take loans from other people, because of they capitalize on that. That way they capitalize on the loans that we take from them. When we take loans from them, we cannot pay it by cash. They come and collect it by other means. They take our lands from us. They take our sea from us. They come and influence our economy. They come and influence our politics. You understand? That's how they do. So for how long are we going to keep on taking in loans just to develop our country? Whilst Uganda, we all knew the story of Rwanda from 1994, the genocide that happened there. But see Rwanda from 1994 up to now, 2021, how they have developed, and they developed it through agriculture and technology. You understand? Now Rwanda is one of the best countries in Africa. So I think that there is another, if you can have another way of having maybe trying to develop our own country so that we can have means to develop our people. Okay, for me, as I said at the beginning, I was just clearing something about that. I'm here to represent the women and the youths, and I'm very, very concerned about that because of we have a problem in Gambia. I've always said it because of when it comes to youth employment and development, a one-time presidency can't fix it. A two-time presidency can't fix it. And money can't fix it. For me, it's about creating certain environments, international investments that can, because of by creating this kind of environment is the way that you can tackle our unemployment issues. You understand? Because of right now, and to have that environment, we need enough electricity and in a low cost. We need low taxes. We need lots of things because of any country that has been developed, it is developed by international investment. It is developed by private sectors. So what kind of environment are we ready to create for this kind of private sectors and international investment to come and invest in our country? So what kind of environment is your administration ready to create for those people? Because of true, that is the only way for me that we can tackle unemployment and issues that we are facing right now. Because of 70% or 75% of our population are under 40 years old. And okay, what I know about the perception of unemployment when it comes to the international stage, the international perception of employment is when you are at an age of, let's say, 15 or 16 days and you sit for 15 days without having a work. Now you are in an unemployment category. But in Africa or in Gambia, we have, if you are educated or not employed, you are not employed. That's what we see as unemployment. Because we haven't created a background for them, a foundation for them. Maybe before they reach at the age of 18, they will have something to do for their lives. And the problem in Gambia is like, there is no structure for somebody can work in it, Bala Gambian bi, before the Gambian can have those kind of opportunities, mu tukki wala mu nekk ci ay deal wala mu involve in the corruption or mu nekk ci biir government bi. So an ordinary civil servant or ko xamne an ordinary Gambia can't have that means boo xamne dina mëna build up life through the salary bu mo am biir Gambia or through means of income bu mo am biir Gambia. Gambians 90% of Gambians save down dépense la. Everybody is just to have $100, $200 to take their homes and eat. So so Gambia right now. And the second part of this and is the same thing involved with women. Ñu xool ci jigéen yoo xam ne tey waxuma ko suñu yaay yi but our sisters yoo xam ne tey ñu ngi ci biir ñu ngi ci administration si ñu ngi ci institution si ñu ngi liggéey maybe let's say only 30 or 35% of our women or our girls or our sisters are working in this administration. And ci biir liggéey boobu noonu dañ ci dee tackle lots of difficult things because of lots of them before ñu am liggéey sax they will be sexually harassed, or if they are not sexually harassed they will be tempted into something just to get the job. Secondly, and they are not paid properly, and most of them when you come to our economic development, you talk about tourism, how our tourism is working. You understand? It's rampant with drugs and prostitution. How are you going? How if I told that you are there, what will your administration do to help these young sisters who are victims right now, and to help the youths who are not educated? How can you help them to believe that they are part of the country? They are with their votes. They are part of something that they have all the right to have everything that a human being needs as a person. What will your administration do for those kind of youths who are living on the edge because of they have no hopes and nothing to do? So they involve into drugs or something, gangs or things like that. And our women who doesn't have that kind of help, security and support because of the sapabak sa yaay bu ñoo jóg di lijjanti dépense duñ mën a tal nag si ban yoon lañ laa teg pour ñu mën laa yegg wala pour ñu mën laa because of lots of people tey it's not their choice because of maybe same parents they don't have that means to buy them books or pencil or to pay education for them when they needed it. Léegi nag suñ demee ba drop out léegi nag they end up being confused and lose hope. And the same thing applies to our sisters. And because of that, we have this society problem. And if we don't tackle this society problem, it will be
I'm just beginning to wonder whether we have a chairman to this session. Do we have a chairman? What is going on? Are we having a lecture or is it a preparing foundation for question? I mean, how does anyone expect me that I will be able to remember all this and
Mr. Dabo,
efficiency?
Yeah,
how do we do our job efficiently?
No, wait, because of these indicators that,
if it is questions, can you take it one by one? Let me take
I think what happened is, so what we're going to do,
Chairman, take control of the process. Please do things properly.
Okay.
You people are the young people. You have got all the new ideas.
No, I think Jaga was
properly handle a process like this.
No, Njaga was just is new in the platform. Mr. Dabo is new in the platform.
But you are the chairman.
Yes,
but you are the chairman.
Yes.
You are the
yes.
chairman. You should put order into things. Direct our proceedings.
Yes.
How do you expect me to efficiently answer all these questions?
Yeah. Sorry about
to
that.
make it short,
To
make it short,
he
just
is new to
wanted
the
to
process. He's new to the process,
say
so we just didn't want to, disrupt his flow. That's why
we don't have too much time, We don't come here.
we don't have time. And Jaga, Jaga, just ask one question, and then
okay. I'm trying to answer a question, but for me to try to, I'm just trying to make something clear so that I can have an answer, because I'm trying to categorize exactly what I want to base my question into.
Yeah, just ask one question. Let's because Mr. Dabo is gonna go in the next.
What kind of environment have video administration created for this population that I'm talking about?
No, there are too many things.
No, look, I can help
make
you
an
maybe.
attempt now, because it's
just ask one.
I don't have time.
To make it short, it's just what are you going to do for the youths and the women when you are there? I think that's okay.
But he touched on a number of issues. I mean,
that's what
you started by new ideas, and we started a small debate, and we have sort that out. Njaga, is called Njaga, is it? Being the diplomat, he said, I should understand when the issue was posed in generational terms, that what they mean is new ideas. I think that's what he said. That is not a question of, it's more a question of new ideas, fresh ideas. What I'm telling you, good ideas, fresh ideas are not the monopoly of young people or any particular generation. You see, this is some of the things we people have to understand. New ideas, most welcome. But new ideas are not the monopoly of women. They are not the monopoly of men. They are not the monopoly of old people. They are not the monopoly of young people. It's very shallow thinking to say young people means necessarily fresh ideas. No, it doesn't follow.
Okay, so that's clear. That's clear. Okay.
I think Mr. Dabo is having bad signal now.
Point.
Okay.
Signal, Mr. Dabo.
Yeah, Mr. Dabo, that's clear.
No, we are talking about.
I think your signal, Mr. Dabo.
Can we?
You have a weak signal.
Okay. Then let me continue then. In fact, I don't have that. I was just give a summary comment on them because there are too many.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Just make a summary. Just make a summary, and then we wrap it up. Because I think you're gonna go like in the next 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, I myself have to today very early. I think he's having low signal.
It's maybe internet connection. Internet connection, yeah.
I know, but we'll come back.
Can I just jump in very quickly, if I may say so, Mr. Sawaneh?
Yeah. I know. We have to wrap it up in the next 5 minutes. Yeah.
I've been trying to send you messages here all over the case, but anyway, it's been a great interview all the same. Internet is letting us down. As on my side in here, it's the same. So we have to find a way to kind of wrap up as it is now. Mr. Dabo will probably take the opportunity to make some concluding statements.
Yes. Mr. Dabo is back. Let him just finish saying what he's saying. Mr. Dabo, you are mute. You are mute. Honorable Dabo, you are mute.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Now it's okay again. Yeah. Just wrap it up.
Yeah, you can just finish talking, then we can wrap it up.
Thank you. No, a commitment in Busumbala, I have to leave right away. But I wanted to say I was delighted to have this opportunity of exchanging with you and to reassure you that I, in my personal capacity, but also on behalf of my party, Gambia for All, remain always at the disposal of you and other Gambians to exchange ideas.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. And then so with that, we will conclude our
if he got a minute, I just asked, I'm very interested in the environmental aspect. And I know Sadauda's regime was one of the good examples for environmental protection in Gambia, which Honorable Dabo was definitely part of that government. And he came from Kiang West, and one of the protected areas in Kiang West is called the Kiang West National Park, and which, of course, I had the opportunity to work with the Parks and Wildlife, and I know the contribution of Mr. Dabo in the creation of that park, and of course, how the United States aid, the USAID came into Kiang West National Park. And you know, most of the forest parks and protected areas were established under the Jawara administration. And in the last 30 years, there was a very good protection of our environment, like Dabo mentioned in his statement. And we have seen recently a lot of environmental destruction. Honorable Dabo, my name is Famara. Sorry, I'm at work. I know we don't have time. And you are not seeing me live because I'm at work and wearing my.
Yeah, he's one of our panelists, by the way, Mr. Dabo. So Famara is on. Yeah, he's calling from the audio. Yeah.
I'm not showing my video because I'm at work wearing a uniform, so I don't show my face. But my name is Famara Drame. I'm from Brufut originally, but I'm currently in the United States, and I had the opportunity to work for the Gambia government, especially Department of Parks and Wildlife for 15 years, and then the National Environment Agency for 5 years. So during that time, we have seen what progress have been made in terms of under the Jawara administration, in terms of protecting our forests and our biodiversity. We know Jawara is
you sound very knowledgeable. Is a pleasure listening. Yes, you sound very.
Yeah, thank you. So Jawara was the architect of the Banjul Declaration, 1977, when Abuko Nature Reserve was. Abuko Nature Reserve was. I know it's echoing here. Can you hear me?
It's having problem of signal.
Yeah, it's having problem.
But you can continue talking. No problem.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay. So in short, all I want to say is under Jawara administration, our environment was protected and we have our biodiversity conservation. The wildlife was plenty in our country. You know, we have lots of forest parks. You know, currently we have 66 forest parks. We have about 7 to 8 wildlife protected areas. I know there are community wildlife parks coming up in a different location. But now our tourism sector is declining, because most of the tourists coming into the Gambia, they are now crossing over to Senegal to go and see the wildlife. You know, because Abuko Nature Reserve is not in a good shape. There's no big animals there anymore. And look at Kiang West National Park, which is one of the biggest parks in our country. But we have seen a lot of major deforestation happening under Jammeh's regime. You know, within a couple of years, we have seen about 11,000, containers of timber left our country to China. And all of these have been destroyed our forests. And they say most of these are coming from Casamas, but most of them are also coming from the Gambia. So most of our most of our bigger trees have been cut down and taken to China because it's a huge money over there. And you rightly mentioned about the fisheries sector as well. You know, and I know I'm from Brufut, our mothers depend on these pelagic fisheries, for our livelihood. But now we are even competing. We are competing with the Senegalese, who are actually over exploiting our fisheries industry. The Chinese have now come in. We have like 3 fish meal factories, operating in Combo South, and they are actually over exploiting these pelagic resources. That's the Charlos, the Yaiboyos, and the Moroccos, which our people can afford. But these are the things that they are making into fish powder, to feed pigs in China, and our people are starving, And then for you serving the Jawara administration, I know you are very conscious about our environment and our fisheries, and I'm just wondering what you might be able to do about this to avert this trend, so that our people can, have self-food sufficiency and we protect our environment.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Drame. You sound very knowledgeable about it, and I share your concerns. I'm just sorry that time has run out, but I would certainly love to exchange with you because this is a matter of great national concern. And I like to encourage many Gambians, particularly young Gambians, to really try to get comparable understanding of real national issues rather than just jumping about the slogan. These are some of the issues. The starting point for the Jawara government's performance or position on environment was the 1977 Banjul Declaration, as I'm sure you know about. When at that far away time, we sounded alarming bells that the rate at which we are going, our environment in terms of our forest cover and some of our other natural environmental assets are being degraded. And as you rightly said, while the government in the PPP government tried to do its very best with limited resources to preserve, waiting for the days when these things will be better put to use in terms of sustainable management, the coup took place. And over 30 years, Gambia was established not only as a narcotic state, but as a country for smuggling goods. I mean, timber, not only Gambian timber, but Senegalese timber. Now we have to be serious. An economy can be based on crime. Let's face it, all the good percentage of that timber passing through our port, we know it's from Dakar, it's from Senegal. How can a government see that kind of and close your eyes just because you're getting a little pittance out of it? But even before we get our own environment has been terribly degraded. You talked about Kiam West National Park. I'll tell you a little story. You know, Jammeh even tried to have that deregistered as a national park and given to him personally. And that process was done by his minister, one of his ministers. He called his minister and said, I want to take this farm. And if you go to the Registrar General's office in Banjul, you'll find it there. At one point, it was registered in, going to register in Jammeh's name. Only God helped Gambia that the change took place and the Ghana Commission declared that asset should be rewarded back to the public. You see the kind of management we have from people with new ideas, as Mr. Joof will say, young people with good new ideas. Look, I will not be able to do justice to this, Mr. Drame. I wish I could because time is run out. But I asked Mr. Sawaneh. I think
yeah, we'll have you. We'll have you back. We'll have you back for.
No. That's not what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Mr. Sawaneh. I'm saying give Mr. Drame. You have my permission to give him my contact details because I like to explore these issues with him in greater depth than time would allow. Mr. Drame, I'm sorry. Otherwise, I'd like to really take on this. What my government will do, as I said, aware of the importance of environment managed on a sustainable basis for the livelihood of our people. We are going to wage a real fight in its different facets, from stopping erosion on the coastal areas to preserving what remains, little that remains of our forest cover. It's such a plunder going on. It's such a plunder going on. To waste management, you know, the terrible situation you have in Bakote with that kind of waste, with urban development sprawling all over. No proper. We are going to address this in a comprehensive manner, Mr. Drame. That's our intention, because we know that a healthy environment is not only a way of preserving what assets we have for ourselves and for future generations, but it also is affording us a healthy environment for people to live in. So I'm afraid I cannot go into as much detail as I would want because time has run out, but I allow Mr. Sawaneh to give you my contact details. And if you call me, we can exchange. These are the important issues we should talk about, not just slogans.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Dabo. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Ajaga.
Thank you, Honorable Dabo. Thank you all.
My delight, my honor. It has been my honor to speak to all of you. Thank you very much, and wish you luck in wherever you are.
Yeah, it was a nice discussion.
I salute you. I was, and I'm still part of the diaspora, and I've come to the conclusion that being in the diaspora, distance is no bar for you to participate in the public life in the Gambia in different ways, through ideas, through investment. So I encourage you in what you are doing. I've heard what you said you've done for the COVID thing. I think those kind of initiatives are very laudable. I commend you and wish you to continue along that path.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for serving our country.
Only that in your discussion, in your understanding of issues, please avoid shallow slogans like young this, that. No, go into depth.
No, that doesn't stop. In fact, I just wanted to say, doesn't matter who is going to be the president December. I think you are somebody Gambia would need in any case. I don't know. Because
exactly.
we need people with experience and help the people.
My ambition is not to be president. My ambition is to get Gambia for all have a say in running the Gambia.
Mr. Dabo, just for you to know, with my discussion with many folks before this show, if one person who is fit to lead the country is you. So just for your understanding.
Let me say thank you to those who think along those lines, but I want them to think more in terms of Gambia for all running it, because that is what will promise sustainability, so that tomorrow, if I drop dead, the ideas will continue. Gambia for all.
Very good.
Thank you. Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you very much. My pleasure talking to you. Goodbye.
Take care.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.